All right. So everybody's got, is anybody here on Windows? Okay. So, I need everybody to start. We're going to, today is a day to catch up on a sort of a lot of loose ends. We're going to look at drive formatting today. We're going to look at RAIDs. We're looking at access management, CMYK conversion, backup strategies, a whole number of issues, other things like that we're going to try to get through today. Kind of a catch-all. So I am recording this. You will see my screen through the recording. You'll hear my voice. You will not see anything that I do on the whiteboard because we don't have a camera for that. But so if you, when I'm actually working on the whiteboard, if you want to record whatever we're talking about on your phone, you're fine, welcome to do that. So to start off with, I need everybody to go to their application folder and scroll down to the bottom of your application folder to the utilities folder. Open up the utilities folder, and inside the utilities folder is the disk utility application. I need you to go ahead and launch that. Okay, so when this thing opens up, does everybody have theirs open? So guys, if I get ahead of you and something, you haven't gotten something open yet or whatever, just give me a shout out so that I don't have to keep asking everybody every time. Is everybody on the same page? Okay, so when you first start here in disk utility, you'll actually see there is a sort of a navigation panel that's on the left-hand side. You'll see mine has got an internal on it, and then some things underneath it. We're going to talk about what those are. Yours likely have different names, so don't worry about that if they're not the same. But the first thing that we're going to do is actually give you a better view of what's really going on. You need to see more than Apple shows you by default. So to do that, you need to come up to the window menu, the view menu, not the window menu, the view menu, and come down and do show all devices. If you take a look at my screen really quickly, I'm going to undo my show all devices to see you get an abbreviated version of what's really going on. But if you do a show all devices, then you'll actually get a much better view of what's going on. So at this point, I want you to plug in just one of your thumb drives. Don't plug both of them in. Just plug a single one of those in. And when it boots up, you'll actually see you will get another section over on the left-hand side that actually is listed as internal, as an external hard drive. So you can see that in my case, I've got an internal hard drive. This is the SSD that comes inside of my laptop. That's what this is right here. Now, I have actually taken that hard drive and split it into two separate hard drives, the way it appears. It's a trick. It's not really that I have two hard drives inside of my computer. I've only got one inside there. But I've done what they used to call partitioning. They don't call it partitioning anymore. They actually call it volumes now. So if you take a look at what I'm talking about here, so look at my screen here really quickly. I'm going to go out to my Finder. You'll actually see, I'm going to hide everybody else. It looks like I've got three hard drives that are on, this is my internal hard drive. It's an illusion. Basically what I've got, it's a single hard drive, but inside of disk utility, I can split that up into three discrete volumes. And the advantage of doing discrete volumes like this is that on my Macintosh hard drive, this is where I keep all of my applications, my system, all of that stuff. My data, this is where I keep just the data that's important to me. This hard drive right here is gigantic. This thing is almost a terabyte. This little hard drive right here is about 10 gigabytes. So when I go to back something up, I don't back up everything. I simply back up the data part of it here. I've also got a third partition in mine. Again, it's a volume now, not really a partition, but basically, called toss. And this is where I put everything that eventually I know I'm not going to keep. So when I'm doing practice files, I'll save practice files onto this. This is temporary stuff. If you know that you're only going to use something for a week or whatever, this is the volume that you put it on so that your hard drive doesn't get too bloated. And anyway, so that's basically what's going on here. So in this disk utility, so this is the structure of my internal hard drive, and you can see the way I've got it set up right here. So I've got my Macintosh HD, I've got my Data B volume and my TOS volume right here. In the external media one, so again, this external label, you should have a thing that says media, and then underneath it you should have untitled. Does everybody have that? Okay, so basically what this piece of software does is it allows you to format hard drives, and we need to talk about those, what they are and what you can do with them and different strategies for them. So to start this off, if you actually click on the media part, this is the media. This is the entire external hard drive. Again, if you go out and look at your Finder, you should be able to see this. And you can see I've got one right here. It's called Untitled. It looks like just like a single hard drive. So you should see that on your desktop. All right, so back here in this disk utility, that's what this untitled part is right here. However, what we want to do is we are going to erase this hard drive to set it up for different applications, for different reasons. You can also see when it's plugged in, there's a little thing that right over here. It's an 8 gigabyte hard drive, but you don't really get the full 8 gigabytes. You'll see it says 7.92. That's because all hard drives need a small amount of space on them to contain the identity that this is what they are. It's like, hello, here, I'm a hard drive. That has to stay on a hard drive, so it's space that's not available to us. But for all practical purposes, this is a 8 gigabyte hard drive, thumb drive. So to reformat this, which is what I want to do, you come up, so you click again on media, not on untitled. I'll show you why you don't do media, why you do media instead of untitled. If you click on this, you will actually get a box that opens up. So I'm going to say click on erase. And when you do, you'll get this box that opens up and it says, okay, what do you want to name yours? I'm just going to leave it named untitled. You can name yours anything, it doesn't really matter. But in this format drop-down box, you will see that you've got a whole series of possibilities that are in here. You've got APFS, APFS encrypted, blah, 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 blah. Then you've got macOS extended. Then you've also got exFAT and then MS-DOS FAT. So all of these are possibilities to us. If you then look at that's the format, but you also have a schema. And in this schema, if you take a look at this, you have 3 possibilities that are in here. The reason we are formatting the entire media instead of just the volume that's inside of it is this. You don't need to do this, but actually go ahead and do this. Hit cancel out of here for just a second. And then I want you to click on the untitled. This is actually the volume that is on that media. And again, click on erase. And when you do this, you'll see that you can name it and you can format it. It's still got all those same formats, but it does not have the schema here. That will cause us problems. So that's why you're not doing the volume, but you're actually doing the parent media of this. So I'm going to cancel out of this again, and I'm going to go back to the media, click on erase, and then in this drop-down menu, again, I'm just going to leave my untitled one. We need to talk about what these are. So the first one is APFS. This is Apple's most current file system. And if you were only going to do Apple stuff, this would be the one that I would suggest that you actually use. It's the most recent, it's the most modern, it's the most flexible. It's definitely what you want to use. So if you get a brand new hard drive and you bring it home, very few hard drives are formatted for Macintosh. Most of them are formatted for Windows. So you would come in here and you would actually select this. You do not want to select this APFS encrypted. The reason you don't want to select this is that this is a different place and a different way of encrypting your hard drive. I'm not against you encrypting your hard drive, but you don't want to do it here, because what this is going to do is it's going to bury the encryption, both the key and the code, everything about it gets buried into this hard drive. And that means if something fails in the hard drive, you can't get it out. So instead, if you wanted to encrypt something, do this with me. Come up to your Apple menu, come down to System Settings, come down to Privacy and Security, and at the very bottom of Privacy and Security, you will see a thing that's called File Vault. You would click this and turn this on. Now, I'm not going to suggest you turn this on right now, but this is a better way to actually encrypt your hard drive, because this gives you access to it from your computer. It's not all inside and loaded essentially onto just your hard drive itself. Yes? No, I'm not saying you should cut it off. That means so yours is protected. All I'm saying is that whenever I format a hard drive, I would not do the encrypted part here. I would do what you've got going on. And it's fine to have that on. I mean, again, when you log in for a password, if somebody doesn't have your password, they can't access anything in your hard drive, which is fine. There's not a whole lot of overhead to have that actually happen. So, but again, you want to do it at the system level, not at this. So then if we click on drop down menu here, so again, you'll see that you've got an encrypted version. You'll also see that you've got one that says case sensitive. And what this means is that the naming of the hard drive, whatever you name your hard drive, if you use capital letters, a mix of capitals and non-capitals, so, capital letters and non-capital letters. If you mix it up, it has to be exact. Whatever you put in for the name and for your password or any of that kind of stuff, it has to be exact. And there is no real serious advantage to doing this, so I would not do this. And then the last one down here of the APFS is case sensitive and encrypted. Again, you don't want to encrypt here. So this top APFS is the only one that you would ever use for this. Now you also have Mac OS Extended journaled. And as a matter of fact, the hard drives that you've got right now are this Mac OS Extended. This is an older version of partitioning that Apple uses. And it's, if you've got there's certain if you get to an old enough Macintosh, it will not be able to read this APFS. This thing has it's probably 5 or 6 years old now at least. So if you've got a computer that's like 10 years old or 15 years old, I've got old computers that are running software that has been orphaned, and I have to run it on an old computer. Some of those older computers will not recognize this APFS. Every Macintosh will actually recognize this Mac OS Extended. Again, it's not as flexible as the APFS, so if you're not worried about legacy Macintoshes or older stuff, whatever, you can avoid this. If you are worried about those, then you would actually pick this, and again, it will run everything. So we're going to do this as an APFS. We are going to format this twice. So I'm also then in this drop-down menu here for the GUID partition. All Macintoshes take this GUID partition map. This Apple partition map goes so far back, I don't know that you would ever run into a computer that uses this anymore. Again, it used to be you had to use this GUID partition map to format a hard drive if you were going to use it as a startup drive. And then you could use this as just a regular drive that would be read as an external drive. There's no advantage to using this anymore, so nobody uses that. However, this master boot record is critical to us if we want to do hard drives that are for Windows or that are for both Macintosh and Windows at the same time. But for us, to begin with, the way most of the drives that you will do for a Macintosh going from now forward is you would select, again, you would name it, you would select this APFS and then this GUID partition and then click erase. You'll usually get a warning sign saying, okay, well, you're going to lose everything that's on that hard drive because this is erasing your hard drive or that thumb drive. So at any rate, we'll go through this part of it really quickly. And then you can hit done. And now you've actually got a thing right here But you've also got a new thing right here that's in between. This thing is called a container, and inside of it you've got this untitled number. It's just called untitled. If you go back out to your Finder and take a quick look, so I'm going to hide others. You'll actually see it's right here. It looks exactly the same way as the other one did. However, I am going to go back into Disk Utility, and what we're going to do now is we're going to click on the container, and this is literally a container. It holds multiple volumes, and we are going to add another volume to this. So to add another volume to this, I can never remember where it is. It's not there. It's right down here. So in the edit menu, you are going to add an APFS volume. And when you do that, it's going to say, okay, well, what do you want to call it? I'm just going to call mine untitled number 2. I still want to keep this as an APFS format. You'll notice you don't have those other formats. You also don't have the schema here. You can't change those anymore, because all we're doing is we're adding what appears to be a second hard drive. It's not really a second hard drive. It just gives you that appearance. But, and these two volumes are going to simply share the 8 gigabytes that are living on my, that are the size of this thumb drive. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave this as untitled number 2, and I'm going to hit add. And then I'm going to hit done. And now you'll see that you have 2 of them. Yes. To get the second one, come up to the edit menu down to add APFS volume. So then what you can do now is when you go out on your desktop and you actually take a look at your desktop, you will see that you've got your untitled original one and you've got your untitled number 2, and you're done. And I'm going to pause the recording really quick. If somebody could catch Nikayla up on this where we're at right now, that would be great. And I'm going to grade this really quick and I will be right back. Okay, so did everybody end up with 2 separate volumes in their Finder? Yes? No? Let's try that again. Yes, we have both of them, or no, I don't? Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. So, and again, the advantage of doing this is that if you're looking to back important material up, you don't want to necessarily have to back up your entire hard drive all the time. So this is a way that you can splinter stuff off. And this is exactly what I did to create my data hard drive and also my TOS volume, was simply that. And again, it's much easier to do this using the APFS file format. So if we go back into Disk Utility, we are going to reformat this again because I'm going to do this to create what we call a RAID array. So to reformat this again, you want to select the media part at the top. Actually, I take it back. We're going to do a different kind of hard drive before we get to the RAID one. And then click on Erase again. And in this erase number 3, I'm going to actually just retitle it as untitled. In my drop-down menu here, I am not going to do APFS. What I'm going to do is either exFAT or MS-DOS-FAT. So the difference in exFAT and DOS, so these are the formats that you use for Windows computers. So MS-DOS-FAT was the original. This goes all the way back to the beginning of, this was the file formatting that Microsoft launched when they actually launched the personal computer. The problem with this thing is that it's got a 2 terabyte limit on it. So if you get to anything that's really bigger than that, you can't, it will not work on MS-DOS-FAT. exFAT was the newer version that they actually created. So exFAT will actually have, it's unlimited. So if you wanted to set this computer up so that it worked on Windows or Mac, either one, you would not use any of the Macintosh stuff because the Macintosh stuff is only for Mac. Windows can't read these file formats unless you have some specialized software on the Windows machine that will read it for Windows. But natively speaking, Windows cannot read anything that's formatted for a Macintosh. Macintosh, on the other hand, can read both. It can read all the stuff that's formatted for Mac, And it can also read all the stuff that is formatted for Windows. So we're going to create this hard drive right now for Windows. So to do that, you would pick exFAT, and then in the schema drop down, you pick master boot record. Again, if you've got something to write with, maybe you want to take notes on this stuff, the whole day is going to be like this. Again, I am recording this right now. I will put that up on my YouTube channel. So if you haven't been taking notes up to this point, you're still going to have a chance to see this again. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and set this up. So I've got exFAT is my format. The schema is going to be master boot record. To show you how bad, not how bad, but what happens when you do this with the old version, the MS-DOS FAT, if you click on this down here, what you'll actually see up here in this top part, it used to reset this. It doesn't reset this anymore, but it should. In the old versions of Windows formatting, you had the name of your hard drive had to be in all caps, and it couldn't exceed more than 8 characters. So if you actually use this thing set up using MS-DOS FAT, you get into a very, very brief way that you can actually name your file. It's really constricting, so don't bother with that. Just use the exFAT. Again, master boot record, and then go ahead and hit erase. And what you'll see is, once it's done, it's actually destroyed the original partition, the container part, that's all gone. This is now, again, if you take a look, it'll look the same as just the original untitled part. So I'm just going out to my Finder. And you'll see that right here is just the untitled one. However, this one right now, if you click on this once and then hit Command-I, it'll open up the window here for you to actually look at it. And you can see it is an X format format in this. So this will plug directly into a Windows machine, and you will be able to read everything that's on it on a Windows machine. So if you are working in environments where you're using both OSs, you definitely want to format this way. What I have found is, again, this is not as flexible as having the most recent version of the APFS format for Macintosh, if you are working in a Macintosh-only world. But if not, this is the only solution that you've got. Okay, back into here one last time. We're going to actually format this one more time to set this up for RAID arrays. Now, I think they've worked things out now that you can use APFS to make RAIDs. We're going to talk about what RAIDs are in just a second. But I know for certain that Mac OS Extended Journal actually does work on this. So that's what all of these hard drives, all the other ones that you've got, are all done as. So we're going to format this one last time. So again, you want to select Media, because you need to be able to get to the schema as well. And you're going to click Erase. And I'm just going to call it Untitled. And then I am going to do this as Mac OS Extended Journal. You'll notice that you can't go from Windows to APFS. If you wanted this to be APFS, you would first do it as Extended. Actually, I take it back. When I go to GUID partition, I'm going to get those other possible formats. Yep, they're here right now. So again, Mac OS Extended Journal is what we're going to pick for the format. GUID partition map is what we're going to pick for this. And then click Erase. And done. Okay, I'm going to pause the recording right now. I want to get through looking at what RAIDs are really quickly, and then we'll take a break, and you guys can go grab something to eat and a cup of coffee or whatever. So I'm going to pause. Okay, so back in Disk Utility, you should now, if you've plugged in your second one, you should see both of them right here. You should see two external medias. Their name, in my case, they're named the same thing. If you named yours Untitled 2, it doesn't really matter what the names on here are. But these are both the exact same size. So you can see I've got a 9.2 on my first one. I'm going to click on the second one. I've got the same thing right here. They're the same brand. They're the same size. They're from the same lot number. They are formatted exactly the same. Again, you can see it. It's a GUI partition is on both of these. this guy as well. If you click on the volume itself, it'll tell you the formatting that was actually done. Mine is OS Extended Journaled, and this one is the exact same. You cannot mix these things up. Everything has to be the same for this. Okay, so we are going to build a RAID out of this. To do it, you come up to the file. Are you okay, Michaela? I'm going to wait for you. Just where are you? Say what? Okay. So to build a RAID, you come up to the file menu and you come all the way down to the bottom to RAID Assistant, and it will open it up and it'll ask you. Now, in this software, you can only build RAID 0s and RAID 1s. Yes? Yeah. All right, so you're in disk utility, right? You see both of your thumb drives? Okay, you're going to come up to the File menu and then come down to RAID Assistant at the very bottom. And this will open up. So this will actually allow you to build a RAID 0 and a RAID 1. This concatenated group of disks, what this will actually do is it will take a large group of disks and sort of make it appear like it's just one giant disk, but it's not really a RAID, and it doesn't really have any advantages. There's no real protection on this. If you had a file that was on one, if it was a file was split between two disks in this last version, this JBOD, that JBOD stands for just a bunch of disks. Then you wouldn't necessarily lose the file. You could lose the file if part of it was on split on the good drive and then on the failed drive, whatever. But anyway, nobody really uses this part right here. But anyway, these are the two options that you have. If you get into more serious RAID stuff, you want to actually get a dedicated program. This works for both. I know it works for Macintosh. I think it works for Windows as well. But it's called Soft RAID. It's this application program right here. This will let you build RAID 5s. It'll let you build RAID 10s. It'll 0s and 1s as well. It's much, much, much more advanced than the stuff for Apple. So people who are doing boxes of hard drives and they want to build a RAID 5, they typically use this software to actually do it. But I'm going to stick with the software that you guys have available to you just so that you get the process of how to do it. So we're going to start with a striped RAID. We're going to just build one. We'll build a RAID 0. So it will be faster, but again, dangerous. So anyway, I'm going to click this radio button right by where it says striped RAID 0. Yes?
If you wanted to make a RAID 0 and then copy that over to a different hard drive,
you can copy the files, but you can't copy the formatting, because what we're doing right now is going to reformat those two hard drives into one.
but you'd still have like the files would be on corrupted if you did transfer them?
So in a RAID 0, now when the RAID, if one of the two, in our case we're only using two, but if one of them failed, the RAID won't mount. The RAID's gone.
No, I know. If you like transfer the files from that to something completely separate, does that make sense?
Yeah, but as long as the RAID's intact, it works just like a regular hard drive.
But if the RAID fails, regardless of where the files
Then nothing mounts. There will be nothing on your desktop. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just do a RAID 0. The same process happens for RAID 1s. It's just the result is different. So go ahead and hit Next, and then you'll see you have two options here that you can click to actually do it. I'm going to click on the, you can't, I mean, there's only things that you can only click. So I'm going to click on my media, the first media one, and then the second media. You see where it says discs 4 and 5? You can ignore all of that. It gets into really weird lingo when you get into RAID land, and you'll see these numbers don't, they identify the disk, but only internally. They don't make any, it doesn't make any sense to the people who use this stuff. So at any rate, I'm going to select both of those, and then I'm simply going to hit next. And it's going to say, well, what do you want to call this thing? And I'm going to title mine RAID 0, just so that I know what it is. The format, I'm going to leave this as Mac OS Extended Journaled. But again, you could get on this drop-down menu right here. You'll see that you cannot create one of these for Windows. If you were going to try to do it for Windows, I haven't tried this, but my suspicion is, I'm going to go back. My suspicion is that both of these have to be formatted as Windows hard drives to begin with. So again, you would do both of these as exFAT. You would do master boot record for both of these. And then when you came into the RAID here, then you might be able to build, you might be able to, at this stage of the game here, you'll see I don't have any Windows options here. But in our case, it doesn't matter. We're doing these for Macintosh anyway. So I am going to leave this as Mac OS Extended Journaled. In terms of the type of RAID, it's going to be a RAID 0, and you'll notice the capacity now is doubled. It's actually very close to 16 gigabytes. So it's both of the 8s come together. The RAID is larger, it is faster, but it is also dangerous. This chunk size has to do with, again, the number of the amount of information that they're putting in any one given sector range. It doesn't really impact anything except for speed. So if you have larger chunks, you would use, because we deal with very large file sizes, we would do 128 or a 256 chunk, because again, we are dealing with 1 gigabyte files, 2 gigabyte files, that kind of stuff. It's really big data sets. If, on the other hand, though, you were working like with a database, there are databases that are only 1K in size. So you would not want to use a 256 block of your hard drive space to hold a 1K database file. So again, the stuff here is more for people who have larger file sizes. Now, it's just a question of speed. For us, you can leave it at 32. It doesn't really, it's not going to make that much difference for us. Again, when you get up into the size, if you imagine the size of the arrays that Google or that Amazon have, this shit really starts to matter. But for our purposes, you're not going to see that much difference in speed or in efficiency of size. So, and then I'm just going to hit next again. And it's going to say, okay, do you want to create this thing? And I'm going to say yes. Now, this takes a long time to do this. So, but we're going to have to wait this thing out. I am going to pause the video because nobody wants to sit through this. We are going to... All right, so we have the RAID now built. And so if you go out and you take a look at it in your Finder, you will actually see that instead of 2 hard drives anymore, you've got this one thing right here called... Mine should have been called RAID 02, but it looks like it didn't copy that name over. But I can come down here and click on it and hit Command-I to look at it. And you can see it is 16 gigabytes. So this has been RAIDed together. So, and if you take a look in your, so I just didn't name it that correctly, but I can change that. But you'll see Media 1 is now a member of the RAID set called Untitled, and this one is Media is also a member of the RAID set called Untitled. If I go back to the Finder, I can actually rename this thing. So I'm going to do a hide others. I can simply, you can rename a RAID right away. So I'm just going to click on it and call it RAID 0. And then if you look at in disk utility, if we, I'm going to quit disk utility and then open it up again. And you'll see that it's now, these are RAID members of RAID 0, both of these. So to find out if what I said is really true, so this is flying without a net a little bit right here. So I think I'm looking for a program that'll tell me how fast my hard drives are, and I don't know that I've copied it over to this. No, I don't have it here. But at any rate, what we expected to happen has indeed happened. Again, if you click on your RAID 0, do Command I, it'll bring up your info palette right here, and you can actually see that the capacity of this is now doubled. Remember, we had two 8 GB hard drives. They've now been put together. Again, this is not a true 16. There's overhead when you actually put in the RAID formatting and that kind of stuff. But effectively, that's what's happening here. And so again, if I were to write a file to this now, if I was to go into my Finder and copy a file, so, grab some picture file, whatever. Let me hide everybody else. So if I were to drag a picture file onto this, it would write half of it to one of my hard drives, the other half to the other, but it would do it in half the time it takes me to write to just one of these hard drives if it was formatted just as a completely normal hard drive. Does this make sense, everyone?
Yes.
Okay, so really quickly, we are going to destroy this RAID now. We're going to take it back. So to get rid of this RAID, you will actually come over to your the left-hand side. You'll notice now we had internal, that's where my internal hard drive is. We had external, that's where the thumb drives are. But now we've got a third category over here called RAID sets. And the RAID that we just built is right here. So if you click on this, you will actually see that it is built of these two hard drives right here. This is the size of the hard drive right here, but also right down here you'll see that you can delete the RAID. So that's what we're going to do. Click on delete the RAID. Click on delete. Now this has worked on some computers better than other computers. We're going to see what happens on this one. If yours, we had trouble last time destroying RAIDs. So we'll see. And I'm going to go look at some stuff. Did you find the RAID set at the very bottom?
Erase. Oh,
It also takes quite a long time to run. So let me pause the video. We're not done. Okay, so mine, yeah. I'm sorry, what? Yours is yours still running? Oh yeah, so yeah, I mean this is, so I'm gonna hit done. So now you should be back and you should see that we've got two media again and an external. The RAID is actually gone. And you can also say here that this is an uninitialized disk. That means it has no idea what the formatting part of this thing is. So we need to reformat these to be able to use them again so that I can use them again. So you want to click on media on the very top one.
my rate's still showing up. Yeah, same. That's what I was saying. It's still inside. Yeah.
It's what?
It's still here. It says rate sets on mine, but it didn't.
Did you ever get that it was done?
Yeah.
That it was deleted? Oh, so you've already gone through this and then what happened? So you went through all of this, right? And then they didn't change anything? Okay. Let's give this a chance just to make sure that's you don't really need them selected. So then we'll get done. And so you still have the rate set here. You've got one So did this work for the rest of you guys? Were you able to reformat yours back to OS extended journaled? What happened? So you mixed formats?
I swear for the first one you did say 8 feet and then for the second one.
Well, you'll be able to find it in the video.
That is true.
Yes, it is. And when you do,
I'll send you.
you don't need to bother to send me an email. Anyway, I'm just going to return mine, and then I'm just going to collect the hard disk mess that you guys have made, and I've got other software that I can throw at this thing to get them back. But this would be basically what you would do then. Once you have destroyed the array, then you need to redo these as, again, these are now back to 2 normal thumb drives that are formatted using that GUID partition as well as OS extended journaled. So if I look back on my Finder now, you can see I've got untitled one here and the other one right here. So I'm back to normal again. So again, if you couldn't do that, that's fine. Just go ahead and eject your hard drives and give them back to me, and I will fix them later on. But are there any basic questions about this? The reason I do this, guys, is that not that you're going to have to spend your life building RAIDs, whatever, but I don't want you going into a situation where somebody mentions something about a RAID and you have no idea what the hell they're talking about, and then you just don't come off as being, you know, the way I want you to be. No, let me keep those out here. Yeah. No. I'm gonna, yeah, keep these out here. Okay. So, next up, I want to take a quick look at how digital actually works. I think it's important for you guys to understand what's really going on in a digital capture. We've talked a few weeks ago, we went over, we had a whole conversation about, linear capture, right? Remember the whole logarithmic thing? You remember? Hello? Yes, do we remember that? Remember the weight in one person's hand, the weight in the other person's hand, the difference in logarithmic and linear? Should we go over that again really quickly, apparently? All right. Hang on. Okay. So we'll blow through this one pretty quick. Okay, so in this scene scenario that I've got going here, I've got 2 scales that are hooked up to a computer, and the scale that's on the left-hand side, I can't run this in presentation mode because I don't have a cursor, so I'm going to run it like this so I can point things out. On the scale on the left-hand side, I've got a 1 ounce weight, and on the scale on the right-hand side, I've got absolutely nothing. So if I add a 1 ounce weight to the other side, does the computer realize that I've added the exact same amount of weight that was over here on the left-hand side?
Doesn't it not? Because you said that if you're holding 2 things.
This is not you holding yet. This is the computer,
Yes, then.
right? So in this case, it does. It understands that the weight that was here, that I've added exactly the same amount of weight that was here. Now, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to add another weight on this side right here. Now, the question isn't, is this side heavier than this side? That's not the question. The question is the amount of weight that I added the second time equal to the weight that we started with? And the answer is yes. The computer knows that, okay, yeah, you added the same exact amount of weight again a second time. Again, it knows there's more weight on this side. That's not the question. The question is that was the difference in addition of this to this? Was it the same? Did an ounce get added to this? And this just keeps happening. So if we keep going on with this, I've now added another ounce here. Again, the question is not, is this heavier? It is. There's 3 ounces here. There's only 1 here. The question is that every time I add one of these increments, does it understand that the increment that I'm adding is equal to this 1 ounce that's sitting on the left-hand side? And you can do this forever, and yes, indeed, it figures it out. It understands all of that. If we then start with a person, a human being, and it's the same scenario. On this side right here, we've got a 1 ounce weight, and we've got nothing on the other side. And you can see the person's blindfolded, so the only sense that they can use here is their sense of touch. That's the only thing that they're doing. Their sense of, again, they're assessing the amount of weight, the pressure that's on them, they're feeling. So if we add an ounce on this side, does this person think that, oh yeah, they've added exactly the amount of weight that was on this side, they added that. It's the same amount of weight. In this case, the person would know that. They would know that, yep, the weight on this side is exactly equal to this side. However, in our next case scenario, we're going to try to trick them. We're going to add 2 ounces instead of 1. So the question is, does this person feel like, they know that this is heavier. That's not the question. The question is the additional amount of weight that was added right here equal to the weight that is in this left hand? What would you guys say?
Well, yes, right? Because your 1 ounce jar still.
But this is double the weight of this.
But they're in separate jars. So technically it is, but if it was in one condensed jar, it was 2 ounces.
That's overcomplicating things, but imagine this then as one giant 2 ounce jar.
Well, it just makes more sense to me.
Okay, no, that's fine. What I will tell you is that the person here believes that this amount of weight right here that was added is actually equal to this. I know that you don't want to believe that, but it gets worse, so hang on. So we're going to do this again. Now we're going to add 4 ounces of weight here. Now clearly the person knows that there's more weight on this hand than there is on this hand. That's not my question. My question is that when I added this 4 ounces of weight on this side, does the person feel like I've added exactly the same amount of weight that is in this hand? And the answer is yes. That is what they sense. They sense, even though I've added 4 ounces here, their sensation is that I've only added exactly the same amount of weight that they're holding in their other hand, 1 ounce. And this continues. It doesn't end. I go my next step to 8 ounces. When I add this 8 ounces here, right here, this person, the sensation that she has is that I've added 1 more, the same amount of weight that's sitting right here. And this goes on indefinitely. This is now up to 32 ounces or 60, I don't know how many, I can't. So wait, this is 2, 4, 8. This is now 16 ounces here. This person feels like when I added a full pound up here that I'm only adding this 1 ounce right here. And the reason that happens is that all of our senses are logarithmic. They are not linear. So in the scale part right here, when we were going through the whole scale thing, starting with the 1 and then going to another 1, whatever, this is a linear scale. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll show you here. I'm getting ahead of myself. So hang on 1 second. So the first instance was a linear scale. This is the way computers actually react to stuff. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is a linear scale. It doesn't have to be only single digits. 100, 200, 300, that's also a linear scale. The thing that makes it linear is that the distance from any two numbers is the same no matter where you are on the scale. So the jump from 9 to 10 is identical to the jump from 3 to 4. The jump from 200 to 300 is exactly the same as the jump from 500 to 600. It's every single increment is linear. They are all the same. But that's not what happens in a logarithmic scale. In a logarithmic scale, it is an exponential scale. So for example, you start with a 1, then again, the next increment would be a 2, the next is 4, the next is 8. It's a doubling every single time I go up. But you can see the difference in 64 and 128 is actually 64. The difference in 1 and 2 is 1. But people who experience stuff logarithmically, if your senses are logarithmically, you see the jump from 1 to 2 is being identical as the jump from 64 to 128 or from 16 to 32. Every one of these jumps is perceived as being the same. So again, you're not going to see this on the whiteboard, so I'm going to pause this right now in the video. If we go back to the end of this, this is the advantage of having a logarithmic system. So let's say that you as a person, you are only capable of seeing 8 steps of tone. If you were a linear person, a linear capture person, 8 steps would be this blue range right down here. You can see you're starting at very little here and you get up a little bit right here. But again, this is a linear scale. So you go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8. The difference in 7 and 8 is identical to the difference in 2 and 3. It's identical to the difference in 1 and 2. Every step is the same. But for 8 steps in a logarithmic world, you go from 1 to 128. This is the range that you would be able to see. So why are our senses logarithmic? So imagine this. If you go outside on a bright sunny day and you look at the bright highlight of the sun on the chrome bumper of a car, and that's in your field of vision, and then also the shadow underneath the car is also in your field of vision, your eyes are capable of seeing the detail in both of those. Because your eyes have this absolutely gigantic capacity to see tonal range. And it's only because our eyes function logarithmically. Every time we take a step in tone in our gradation, the next step, it is a doubling. Do you know how quickly you can go with this 8-step thing? How fast we get up to like 1,000,000? It doesn't take long to get there. 16-bit, which would be 16 steps right here, is 65,000 tones.
Wait, I thought it was 12, wait, 18.7 colors.
Don't worry about colors yet, because we're going to talk about that in just a second. So, but does this make sense, everybody, what we've got going on here?
Well, yes, a basic question that's related to this, if our, well, yes, cameras do think logarithmically.
No, our cameras are linear. That's the problem.
Like, our senses. Did you?
Our senses are logarithmic. Our cameras and our monitors are linear. That's the problem I'm trying to point out. There is a complete mismatch between the two. Our cameras and our monitors, all things digital, do not work like the way we work. So all of that has to be changed.
Well, then why do you lose 50% of, like, image data or shadow detail or whatever when you're more stuff under?
Again, because you have to put this, everything that is linear has to be converted to a logarithmic scale. And when you do that, if you lose the very top half of it, you are throwing away half of your data because it has been converted to a logarithmic scale so that we see it the way we're supposed to see it. So here, I'm going to show you an example of this really quickly, and maybe this will sort of help. So there's a program that will allow me to actually show you an unprocessed raw file. So we're going to look at that really quickly. First off, I'm going to show you the file itself, the way we see it. All right, so this is a file that I've actually shot. I'm going to reset this to its default setting, so there's nothing that is going to be done to this at all. I am going to color balance it. So this is, all this is just a raw file. This is a capture. I haven't changed the exposure of it. You look of it and you can see, if I hover over here, I can see that my, I'm reading like in the 230s, that kind of stuff. It's a little bit underexposed for camera raw, but if I open this same file in Capture One, it would be in that 245 to 250 range. But for the most part, it's really close to being well exposed. Yes? Every single raw processor is unique. It's like developers in film. They are all do completely different jobs. People, a lot of people, me included, I hate the way that Capture One renders skin tones. I'm not Capture One, Camera Raw, I hate it. It's got way too much red in it. The skin tones, the way they're rendered in Capture One, are beautiful. And if you were to go to Bibble, which is another raw processor, you would get a complete. No, it's not like night and day. It's not like, but they're all very specific and very unique, and that's why people pay money to do, like DxO is another one who they have an exceptional raw processor, and people just like the way everything is like flavored.
Isn't the point of calibrating your monitor though to avoid issues?
But it doesn't have anything to do with how the software interprets the data. That's part of the issue. Yeah, all right, so anyway, this is what the file is supposed to look like. I'm gonna go ahead and open this up into Photoshop. Now I'm gonna show you what the real raw data looks like. So hang on one second. Oh, wait, wrong class. So this is a program that will allow you to actually process a raw file without doing any corrections on it. So I've got that same raw file right here, and I'm going to drag it. Let me get rid of this other file first. On top of this program, and it goes ahead and it runs through this, and it creates a TIFF. And this is what raw file that has had nothing. This is the data that's actually coming off of your sensor. This is what you think you're getting. This is what you're really getting. And again, it's not that you lose so much. It's all, this is the data that you have to work with that you need to turn into this. Because again, this is a linear capture. This is the logarithmic corrected version of it. This is what your camera sensor is giving you. This is not underexposed. This is a perfectly exposed file. This is just what the data is. And you see it's got a dominance of green in it as well. That's because, again, on sensors, the way sensors construct color is they put little color filters on top of all the pixels. But in the case of most arrays, they double the number of green pixels because green is where we get data. detail. Yeah. So this is what your camera, this is the best of cameras, what it actually does.
So if you were doing black and white photography, would having them wear green instead of black,
If you convert it to black and white, it doesn't matter.
but like there's no advantage of picking green clothing versus black?
So again, if you take a look at a typical Photoshop file, I'll just give you the sort of the general gist of it right here. If you look at the red channel in large, they all have detail in them. So detail matters in all of them. But you'll notice that the red channel is actually pretty contrasty. Red channel is typically where we get contrast from in our images. The green channel is where we get detail. It's really dominated. And again, all of this is modeled on human beings. If you look at the rods and the cones really in your eyes, there are cones in your eyes, cells in your eyes that are receptive to red, green, and blue. The cells in your eyes, the number that are receptive to, you have twice the number of cells that are receptive to green as you do red and blue. So again, all of these systems are modeled after human vision. So at any rate, that's basically what's going on here. I don't want to run out of time before we get into backup strategies though. So I'm going to table the rest of this conversation, get through the backup part, and then if we have any time left, I will return to showing you basically exactly why this is as green as it is, and we'll talk about other things as well. Torrance. Oh, scratch disk. So, yes. So again, scratch disking. So what's happening right now, again, if I did 1,000 changes here, eventually I would run out of RAM, and what would have to happen is that my Photoshop would start writing copies of my image back to my hard drive in this invisible partition. So the way you need to figure out what your problem is, and everybody in this room can do this right now if you've got a computer, you need to go to your Finder. I'm going to do a hide others for everybody. You need to click on your hard drive right here on whatever yours is called. Typically, most people have Macintosh HD. Hit Command I or go up to the file menu and come down to Get Info. And you will actually see in here the capacity of your hard drive and the available space on it. So can you find that on your computer? All right, so the rule of thumb is this. You need a minimum of 10% of available hard drive space on your computer for it just to function. We're not talking about Photoshop right now. We are talking about just the overall health of your computer. So I have got a 1 terabyte hard drive that's in here. I need 100 gigabytes of free available space. Now, most people would then say on top of that, for scratch disking, you need, again, this would be the most extreme. You need another 60 gigabytes on top of that. So in my case, I would need 160. I have 200, so I'm in fine shape. Most of you guys, you are maxing the shit out of, most of you don't have 10% free space. And if you don't, your computer is, number one, running really glitchy. Number two, you are going to bang into that scratch disk thing over and over and over again. You've got to get the files off of your hard drive, off of your internal hard drive. So the things that you look specifically for, you need to go after video. That's the big hog of all. So go search for any, you can search for the extension, so search for a .mp4 or a .flv or whatever. Eli.
How do you open that?
So again, click on your hard drive once. Don't double click because it just opens a window. Yeah, so in your case, you never see your hard drive, do you? Okay, you can change that. Go to Finder, down to Settings. And in the settings right here, you have to click on hard disks. So then, no, don't open it. Just, you close that up. Yeah, or, and you close that up. That doesn't matter. Click on this once, and then hit Command I. Right.
had, you know, like 803 gigabytes.
Right.
I was working on a file, and it wasn't even dropping, it was just a little bit over a gigabyte, and it kept saying scratches are full after I had to leave it.
Then you need to fire up Photoshop, and we need to see if you set something else up, but that should not be happening. All right, I do want to talk about backing up, though. We need to get through this part because this is really critical for you guys. All right, I'm going to close this guy up. I've got 2 hard drives. I've just put in my thumb drives again. I'm going to call one of them primary, and I'm going to call the second one backup. Okay, and then I am going to drag my Thanksgiving shopping list onto my primary hard drive. And if I take a look at it, it's sitting right here. This is my Thanksgiving grocery list, right? So I want to actually back this drive up to my backup drive. How would you guys do that? Yeah, you do. Basically, everybody just does a drag and drop, right? Yeah, you grab the file that's in here and you drag it down here and everything is good to go, right? How certain are you that the copy is valid?
You know, I've run into this recently with files that refuse to open, so I'm assuming it's great. If it was, then it's fully open.
I'm just saying, this drag and drop copy part, you believe that that's happening, but is there any assurance on your part? Is there any validation system that indeed you made a copy and that copy is indeed good and intact? No, you just have the faith that Apple is not going to fuck you up, right? Nobody works this way. I'm going to tell you that right now. So I do not sell software. I'm just going to say that right now. But the best $40 in your life that you can spend is, I'm going to actually show you where it is. If you go to a browser, type in ChronoSync, ChronoSync, and hit it. It's this group right here. They do not have a Windows version of this. Sorry about that. There is equivalence in the Windows world. You would just have to find out which one it is. But at any rate, if you click on this, it'll actually take you to their website. This is where you can buy it, and you'll actually see that the thing, when you're actually looking at the product line right here, ChronoSync is the only thing you need. You don't need the agents or the Express or the monitors. You don't need any of that. ChronoSync is the only thing that you need. And if we take a look at it, you can say right now it's $50. I've owned this software for over 20 years. They make a huge deal about the fact that when you buy this, you own this. You will never have to pay them another nickel, and they update this stuff constantly. And so you buy it once, and that's it. You will just, for over and over and over and over and over again, no matter how much they update this, it is free. So you'll never have to buy this thing again. This is what everybody uses in the professional industry. Any studio you go to in the world is going to be working on a Macintosh, and they're going to be using this software as their backup. So I'm going to show it to you really quickly, just so that you see how it works and why I brought up the whole thing about validation. So when you first open it up, you can actually use this setup assistant. It'll walk you through stuff. It's really complete, makes things very simple. Once you get used to working with this, you can actually just create your own synchronizer tasks. So I'm going to create a brand new task for this. And what I want to do here is that this is going to be my primary backup workflow. So sync. And I'm going to say OK to that. So then you set these things up. So it works on a right to left system, or a left to right, so right to left, left to right. It goes both ways. I'm going to click choose, and it'll allow me to pick the hard drive that I want to be my primary hard drive. So I am going to go to my desktop, which is not showing up on my screen anymore. So hang on, let me change that. Desktop, and I'm going to go down to select my primary hard drive. sorry, right here, and say select. So this is my primary hard drive. Then I'm going to select my backup hard drive, which is right here, and say select. And then what do I want to do? I want to back up from my primary to my backup drive, and that's what's set up right here. You could go the opposite direction. You'll see the arrow goes in the opposite direction. You can do mirrors in here. You can do all sorts of things. But at its core, what you want to do is simply back up everything that's on your primary to your hard drive over here. You want to synchronize deletions, and now this will say, okay, so if I throw away a file on my primary, this will throw it away on my backup as well, so that they stay the same. However, you can add protection for that. You can say, well, yeah, if you're throwing away a file, I want you to move it to either an archive or move it to the trash that's in the system level of Mac OS. This is what I do. I don't do delete immediately, and I also don't do a keep an archive. I simply put it on move to trash as a safety, so if something goes wrong, I haven't lost it, but I pretty much trust that if I throw something away on my primary, I want it gone on my backup. So this part sets things up pretty well, but the trick and the whole value of this is when you come down to options. And when you click on options and you can come down and look at this special file handling, you want to click on this and say you want to do basic copying with verification. This is the reason you spend $50 on this program. And when you do that, this is now will actually validate your copy. And then you simply click on this. It will run through this, and it'll say, okay, we are done. Everything was fine. No errors were encountered. If there was an error, it'll actually put it up into a log and explain to you what happened, what the problem is. If I go out onto my Finder now, you're good?
Can you check?
Yeah, I'll be right there. So this is my primary hard drive, and this is my backup hard drive right here. So the other advantage of doing this is that now that this has got that copy, it's got my shopping list on both of these hard drives right now. If I add another file to my primary, so we'll go out to the outside, and yeah, I'll be right there. And I just need to grab another file really quick that I can add to. Yeah, I'm going to add this JPEG of a chair that I want to my primary hard drive. So now I've got two right here. If I go back into the ChronoSync software, and now you can do a trial sync, and it'll show you what it's going to move. And if you click on trial sync, it will show you that indeed it's not going to copy my shopping list again. It knows that there's already that copy on both of them. So it's only going to copy what has changed. And what has changed was the addition of this JPEG. So now when I hit synchronize on this, instead of it rewriting the entire hard drive again and again and again, it only rewrites, it only copies the things that have been modified or changed, things that are added or things that have been opened and worked on and closed again. Does this make sense? So the last thing that you need to know is when you think about copying, doing backup, how many of you guys have a hard drive that's just connected to your computer as your backup? Most of you do, right? Well, how else do you back up? Okay, well, at least one, right?
They're all in the same place.
Okay, so that was going to be my next line right here is that if you only have 2 copies of your information, you do not have a legitimate backup. So you need your primary, which should be your internal hard drive in your computer. It's the fastest. You should have an external that sits next to your computer all day. You can set this ChronoSync program up to do it to run automatically. And then you need another backup that is offsite. You cannot have all 3 of your backups in one place because again, if there's a fire, a flood, somebody comes in and breaks into your house, steals all the shit, you have a roommate who hates you and throws it into the garden, whatever, all of that bad, you've lost everything. So what you do with your external offsite was every time you do something that you care about, you back it up to the hard drive that's sitting right next to your computer. You take that to your offsite site, and you bring your offsite hard drive back, and you make another copy of that, so that you're always have got those 3 backups going. And you say, people say, well, where am I going to put an offsite backup, right? Share a friend, do it with a friend, put it at their house, do it with mom and dad's house. Get a safety deposit box. That's what a lot of people I know do, and put it in there. But if you have all of your shit together, you are going to lose it. Okay, sorry. That's okay. What did you hear really
I mean, I've never had it, so I'm trying to think. I'm not.
So guys, I'm going to pause this recording for a second. I would like to, but it's just some of the things that we need to actually talk about and think about. Yeah, actually, I want to go ahead, and now I need to finish this part first, so hang on one second. So we need to talk really quickly about two things, data validation and data migration. So when we talk about these two particular issues, data validation. So the thing is that no matter what medium you use to store your files with or on, they will fail. It does not matter. You can do it on hard drives, you can do it on SSDs, you can do it on tape, you can do it on CDs, you can do it on DVDs. It does not matter what the medium is, that will fail. It's just a reality you have to accept. So you need to stay on top of that part. So how many of you have other older hard drives that you've got work on that you've got in the closet, or you've got in your office, or you've got, I don't know, you got them someplace, right? How often do you start those hard drives up? So let's say that you have a hard drive that's got files on it, and you fill it all up. But it's your archive. It's not stuff you're working on, but you want to save your stuff, right? And so the hard drive fills up, and that's fine. You put it in your closet, and you've got two copies. You've got one that's at mom and dad's place, and one that's in your house, so that you've got backups that are apart. But you put that hard drive up there, and my question was, when was the last time you actually started that up? Yeah, a couple of months is fine, but what people will tell you is that over the course of about 6 months, your hard drives will start to lose their magnetic structure. So you have to start the hard drive up to sort of like keep it in condition, because just sitting there, it is going to fail. And so the recommendation for all archive is that you start that stuff up at least once every 6 months, and you let it run for at least 10, 20 minutes.
What about the memory cards? Because I have like 10 memory cards that I just
Like SD cards, same thing.
oh,
Again, all the problems that you have with all of this stuff, again, it loses its magnetic charge, and if it loses just enough, your data is corrupt. It's not like you can't, you might be able to reformat the card, but that becomes a problem, so you need to stay on top of that stuff. So that's one thing we need to think about. Data migration is the next thing you need to think about. Now, things have gotten much better in recent times, but there was a time where people had storage mediums that are no longer supported. So the absolute worst problem that's happening in the Library of Congress right now is that they are being fed so much data that it's on systems that they're systems that have become obsolete.
VHS?
Exactly my point. No, you're absolutely right. That's exactly it. If you had to come up with right now, if I said to you, okay, I will give you $100,000 if you can play a VHS tape for me in the next 5 minutes, could you come up with a player and do it? No, right? That's a problem. So you need to keep that in mind, that the media that you are using has to remain current. And if not, you need to have a schedule of how to migrate that data so that you don't lose it. I have got my very first medium format camera. I didn't own it, but the one that I rented was one that was made by Konica. There's nothing in the world I have that will read those files now. Nothing.
Oh.
Yeah, this is a huge problem, and it's something that, again, the big players have gotten, again, do you need to worry about your Canon, raw files? Probably not. Your Nikon, your Sony raw files? Probably not, at least not right now. For 10 years? Who knows?
What about the Mamiya?
But Mamiya was another one that the same thing happened to. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just saying this, it's something that you have to keep in the back of your mind, that you're just because you stored your files and locked them away doesn't mean that they're safe. You need to make sure that the media that they're on is still viable. And then you also need to be aware that if there are situations that can come along that render what you've got no longer readable, to migrate that data to systems that are. So for instance, if I could get my hands on a Konica camera that wrote these things, it would be able to read the files, and then I would be able to hopefully get some version of those that would become a TIFF file, or at least a JPEG file, something. But as it is right now, I can't do anything with them. I can't open them. There's no software that supports it. All the Konica software it's 20 years out of date. So maybe I could find a computer that's 20 years old and then finally find a copy of it, and then, but, yeah. Does that make sense? So again, these are all the things that can bite you in the ass and that I don't want to bite you in the ass, so.
Would the Library of Congress not have a better, like, they're the Library of Congress.
I know. No, believe me. I know, but there's so many systems out there. In the old days, everybody put stuff on tape, and everybody had their own, just like VHS and Beta. Everybody had proprietary tape, and if you don't have the reader for it, or if the reader is no longer working, or if the tape itself has gone bad, you've lost that. I mean, it's just, you can't imagine what a headache it is for them. Okay, last thing I want to do really quickly. I need you guys to open a file in Photoshop. I don't care what file it is. I don't care. It needs to be hopefully a file in color. I just want to do one last thing here really quick, and we actually managed to get to everything that's on my list, as long as we get to this last thing. No, it does not. It needs to be just an image file, just something. I'm going to actually open the chair that I'm lusting for in Photoshop. Actually, I'm not going to open that one. I'm going to go ahead and do this with. All right, does everybody have a file open? Okay, so we need to talk about converting to CMYK, and I just want to go through that part really quickly, and then we'll be good to go. Let me just rasterize this file really quick. Okay, so when you actually want to convert a file to CMYK, again, as a tech, you're likely going to be the person who's charged with doing that, and if that is the case, this is what you need to think about doing. To actually do the conversion, it matters how you initially have your CMYK color space set up in Photoshop. So to find that, you need to go to your Edit menu, all the way down to Color Settings. If you're in Windows, it's the same thing. So Edit menu, down to Color Settings, open up a dialog box, and this is where we have just the general CMYK that we are going to use set up. So you'll see it's US web coded swap. If you've got yours set up correctly, that's what you should have. But if you click on this drop down menu, you will see that there's a huge number of different CMYK possibilities. So for instance, if you are in Europe, you would use the faux gras. These are more the standard versions that they use to do for CMYK. Japan has its versions of how they actually do CMYK. We also have various versions in the United States. This web-coded swap is for a good quality magazine. That's what this basically would be, the press that this is being printed on. If you went to a higher end sheet-fed press, something that they would do like fine artwork on, then you would actually change up to the either coded or uncoded version of this. The coded and unversion coded just has to do with the paper stock itself. So is it coded or uncoded? All glossy papers for the most part are coded. Most papers that we get now are actually coded. But at any rate, you would want to know this. So your job as a tech when you need to do this is you need to find out from the photographer or the client, whoever you're working for, what color conversion you really need to give them. And then you need to set it up in here. So in our case, generally speaking, if you don't know, you really want to find out because you don't want to give them something that's been converted to the wrong color space because then when they go to print it out, it'll look like shit and they'll blame you. So, but I'm going to leave it as this right now. I'm going to say okay to that. And then to do the actual conversion, you come up to the image menu, down to mode, mode, sorry. I keep looking up at the screen trying to do this and that never works. So mode, and then across down here, and you're going to pick CMYK color. So if you click on that, there's a warning that's going to come up, and it's going to say, you are about to convert to CMYK using swap coded. This is your verification that you're actually doing this correctly. So I'm going to say yes, okay to that, and we are good to go. And now you will now notice that you no longer have RGB channels, you've got CMYK channels. This is actually in a CMYK color space. If you actually, on the lower part of your image, right on the lower left-hand side, you can click a drop-down menu to get what this readout here really is. A lot of people leave it as document size. That's pretty meaningless. I always put mine at document profile because it's a quick way for me to check. So now I can see that yes, indeed, it was set to swap coded version number 2. Now, if they wanted it in a different one, I can actually go back in space. So I'm going to go back in time in history before I did the CMYK color conversion. I'm going to come up to my edit menu, down to my color settings right here, and I'm going to change this. And I'm going to actually do one that would be more for Europe. So Fogua here, and then I would say okay to that. And now when I do the conversion, so again, up to image, mode, CMYK color, you'll see that it is now changed, and we're going to do this to Fogua 39 and say okay to that. And now this has been converted to that CMYK color space. Is this making sense to everyone? Okay, the last thing you need to think about is file delivery. If you are a tech, a lot of times you will be asked to do a whole range of files. So clients will want the raw file, they'll want a TIFF file layered, they'll want a TIFF file flattened, they may actually want a TIFF file that's sharpened, they'll want a JPEG file, and they'll want a JPEG small one for positioning in stuff like InDesign, that kind of stuff. There's people who want 8, 10, 12 formats of the very same file. And you need to be on top of all of that. So you need to, again, that's your responsibility to do the checklist. Do you need this? Tell me what color space you want for the CMYK. What color space do you want for your TIFF files? Do you want them layered? Do you want them flattened? Do you want all of that stuff? When you then deliver your files, you actually deliver them with a Word or a PDF document that lists exactly the things that they ask you to do. So it lists what color profile you used for your CMYK conversion. It's not that they can't find out, but they're stupid and they won't. But, I used this is this one, this is this one. You told me you wanted this size for the JPEG file, and that's in here. You told me you wanted this size for the small thumbnail of the JPEG. All of that gets delivered all at the same time. So that's if you're a tech. If you are a retoucher, you never deliver a layered file because somebody can go in there and turn the layer off, and then you get blamed for not doing the retouching. So in that case, it is only flattened files and nothing else. A lot of people will go so far as to also deliver their retouching files on a write once only media, so that nobody can go in there and change it. Because if you're using rewritable media, you give them a CD or a DVD that's rewritable, they can go in, completely change your file, and rewrite it back to the DVD, and there's no way that you can prove that that's what you gave them.
A side question, because a couple different photographers I've talked to about this issue where they'll get hired by a client, they want the photos retouched, but then they put retouch to the photo, they deliver them, and they're like, no, I want raw files. And they're like, and then they send raw files, and they're like, these look too bad, I want retouched files, but I don't want them, too retouched. Does that make sense? There's no logic behind it, and it makes zero sense, it's stupid, but if a client wants something, and they say they want to retouch, but then you give deliverables on raw files, is it to change with the naming conventions, or does that make any sense?
Sort of. So they want the raw file.
They don't though. They think they do, but they don't.
Okay, well, then you just need to educate the client. Because the truth of it is, so the great question, the last question I'll leave you with, name a program that will allow you to alter a raw file. What? Camera One, Capture One, Adobe, RG, Lightroom, we will never touch a digital system because it's too easy to manipulate. I can actually put Nikhil's head on the murderer who, shot this person, whatever. So no, digital is out, we will never use it. And Adobe came back to them and said, okay, we'll make you a deal. We will actually create a file that if anybody goes in and changes anything inside that raw file, the file will self-destruct. There is nothing in the world, I don't care how criminal you are, there's nothing in the world that will allow you to edit a raw file and still have it be functional. Oh. By its very nature, the way it exists, if you go in and you change one bit inside that file, the file is invalid. It was their assurance, it would be against their own interests.
But they could do it.
I really don't think they could. Anyway, that's it, guys. Any other questions, anything? All right, if you
It's on YouTube, right?
say what?
Is it recorded?
Yes, it's still recording. I'm gonna stop right now. If you guys could do me a huge favor and help all those people out there break this shit down, I'm gonna go out and join you, but if you could get all your stuff out of here first. We all packed up, so we're ready. But I really try to not force staff to stay longer than they should.